You know that feeling when the plane door finally closes, the engines hum, and you lean back thinking, all right, just a few hours and I'm out of here? Yeah, not so fast. Because behind every smooth takeoff is a long list of things airlines don't tell you. Things that could mess with your comfort, your health, and sometimes your safety. Like the tray table in front of you? Statistically dirtier than the airplane toilet. That piping hot coffee the flight attendant just handed you might have been brewed with water from a tank that hasn't been cleaned in weeks. And the air you're breathing? It's been coughed into, sneezed through, and sent right back your way, filtered, but definitely not fresh. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the secrets nobody announces over the intercom. From the real reason pilots don't share meals, to why going barefoot on a flight is asking for trouble, you're about to see flying through a whole new lens. Because once you know what's really happening up there, flying won't feel the same ever again. It looks harmless, right? Just a fold-down tray where you place your snacks, maybe your laptop, maybe your head during that mid-flight nap. But what if I told you it's dirtier than the airplane toilet? And no, that's not some exaggerated scare tactic. Multiple studies have shown that tray tables can carry 10 times more bacteria per square inch than the flush button in the lavatory. Why? Because airplane bathrooms, gross as they seem, actually get cleaned frequently. Tray tables, not so much. If you're lucky, they get wiped once a day. That's once. Meanwhile, think about what people do on them. They eat, they sleep, they change diapers. Yes, diapers. Flight attendants will tell you straight, there's no time to deep clean every tray during quick turnarounds. So unless you want to share invisible germs with the last 6 passengers who sat there, pack a disinfecting wipe and give it a quick clean. Takes 5 seconds. Could save you from bringing home a stomach bug as your vacation souvenir. Next time the flight attendant offers you a hot cup of coffee or tea, you might want to pause for a second. Not because it's too hot, but because of what's actually in it. Here's the thing. Most hot drinks served on planes aren't made with bottled water. They're made with water stored in the aircraft's onboard tanks. And those tanks, they don't get cleaned every day. Not even close. Jenny, a flight attendant with 20 years in the air, once put it bluntly, "I never drink the airplane water. I don't trust the system." And she's not alone. EPA studies found that over 1 in 10 airplanes tested positive for coliform bacteria. Yes, the kind of stuff that's not supposed to be anywhere near your coffee. Another study called those tanks a perfect breeding ground for bacteria, warm, moist, and rarely scrubbed. By the way, have you ever had airplane coffee that tasted a little off? Let me know in the comments. I'm genuinely curious. Now, if you're flying business class or on a top-tier airline, you're probably getting bottled water. No worries there. But on budget carriers or short-haul flights, especially outside the US, there's a solid chance your tea came from a tank that hasn't been deep cleaned in weeks. So here's your move. Bring your own sealed water bottle. Or bring an empty one and fill it up at a filtered station near your gate before boarding. It's safer, cleaner, and probably tastes better too. When you first step onto a plane, there's this crisp, cool breeze that hits you. Feels clean, feels refreshing. But let's not kid ourselves. It's not mountain air. What you're breathing at 35,000 feet is mostly recycled air. Yes, a portion does get pulled in from outside, but the rest, it's the same air that's been circling through the cabin, through dozens, sometimes hundreds of passengers. The good news? That air passes through HEPA filters. And those things are solid. They remove up to 99.97% of airborne particles, including bacteria and viruses. But let's be clear, filtered doesn't mean pure. It doesn't erase the fact that you're essentially sharing every breath, cough, and sneeze from everyone around you. Studies have confirmed that respiratory illnesses, including COVID, can still spread on planes, especially if you're sitting close to someone who's sick. And when the cabin's full, that filtered air is doing overtime trying to keep up. So what can you do? Simple. Bring a mask, even if it's just for when you're boarding or during high traffic times. Keep some sanitizer or disinfecting wipes handy, especially for armrests and screens. It's not paranoia, it's just smart flying. Because that gentle breeze coming from the vent above your seat, it's been breathed, coughed, and sneezed through a few times already. You kick off your shoes mid-flight. You're trying to get comfy, stretch a little, maybe even head to the lavatory without putting them back on. Big mistake. That cabin carpet, it's not your yoga mat. It's more like a sponge for everything gross that's ever hit the floor mid-flight. Flight attendants will tell you, that floor has seen things. We're talking spilled milk, baby accidents, someone's leftover snack mashed into the fibers, and yes, bodily fluids. Vomit, blood, even the occasional urine mishap during turbulence. It all ends up there. And the worst part? Those carpets don't get deep cleaned after every flight. Maybe once in a while. Maybe. So when you're walking barefoot, or even in socks, you're basically doing a trust fall into a germ soup. Whatever's soaked into that floor could be hitching a ride on your skin for the rest of the trip. If comfort is the goal, pack a pair of foldable travel slippers or some clean slide-ons. But please, for your health and for everyone else's, keep your feet off that carpet, because no vacation is worth starting with a fungal infection. The lights dim before takeoff. The tray tables go up. The seatbelt sign dings. Most people don't think twice. Maybe you roll your eyes, plug in your headphones, or glance at the safety card like it's homework you're not doing. But here's the truth. Every one of those rules has a reason, and some could literally save your life. Let's start with the lights. Dimming the cabin isn't about creating ambiance. It's prepping your eyes. If there's an emergency during takeoff or landing, when most accidents actually happen, your vision needs to adjust fast to either pitch darkness or flashing lights outside. The mood lighting? It's survival lighting. Same goes for that tray table. Leaving it down during landing isn't just inconsiderate, it's a hazard. In a crash, that tray could block your exit, cause injuries, or trap the person next to you. And those window shades? They're not for sightseeing. Flight attendants need to see outside to spot fire, debris, or a clear exit path before anyone moves. Even the infamous airplane mode rule on your phone, no, it won't crash the plane, but dozens of phones searching for signal can interfere with cockpit communications. Not enough to cause a crash, but enough to muddy the clarity when it matters most. Oh, and that tiny hole at the bottom of the window? Not a defect. It's called a bleed hole, and it regulates pressure between window panes and prevents fogging. Just another small detail quietly doing a big job. Flying looks effortless. But that's only because thousands of little safety systems are working behind the scenes. You might not see them, but they're working overtime so you don't have to. Ever wonder what the pilots are eating while you're tearing into your in-flight pretzels? Here's something most passengers don't know. On many airlines, pilots are not allowed to eat the same meal. In fact, they often have to eat from entirely different sources, or wait at least an hour before the other joins in. It's not a matter of taste, it's a safety protocol, a surprisingly strict one. The reason? Food poisoning. If both pilots eat the same contaminated meal and get sick at the same time, you've got a serious problem in the cockpit. And no, autopilot can't land the plane on its own. That's why, behind the scenes, airlines quietly enforce separation when it comes to food. One might eat chicken from the catering service, the other gets pasta from the airport restaurant. Or one eats early and the other waits, just in case something hits wrong. There are even airlines where the captain gets a different brand or supplier than the first officer. No overlap, no risk. And no, this isn't some far-fetched scenario. There have been real incidents in aviation history where foodborne illness incapacitated crew mid-flight. Now the rule is, one sick pilot is a hiccup. Two sick pilots? That's a headline. So next time you see your flight crew with separate trays or eating at different times, it's not personal, it's protocol. And it might just be the quiet reason your plane lands safely every time. It sounds terrifying at first. The person flying your plane is napping. But here's the twist. On long-haul flights, that nap isn't just allowed, it's recommended. It's called controlled rest, and it's one of the safest ways to fight pilot fatigue. When a flight hits cruising altitude, typically on autopilot, one pilot is allowed to take a short, scheduled nap while the other stays fully alert in the cockpit. We're talking 20 to 40 minutes, tops. No curling up with a blanket, no blackout snooze, just enough rest to keep sharp. Because here's what most passengers don't realize. Flying across time zones, overnight shifts, and back-to-back duty schedules wear pilots down. And fatigue is no joke. It's been linked to slower reaction times and poor decision-making. So a quick nap at 36,000 feet? That's not lazy, that's life-saving. On ultra-long-haul flights like LA to Sydney, airlines even rotate in extra pilots. While one set rests in a hidden crew bunk, another takes over. There's always someone awake, in control, and ready. Now, does it ever go wrong? Rarely. But yes, there was that infamous 2024 Batik Air flight where both pilots nodded off at the same time. The plane veered off course for nearly 30 minutes before one of them woke up and corrected it. Nobody was hurt, but it was a wake-up call, pun intended, for the whole industry. Bottom line, a napping pilot doesn't mean you're in danger. It means you're flying with someone who's rested enough to land the plane when it counts. You're thousands of feet in the sky, deep into your in-flight movie, when suddenly, flash, a streak of lightning dances across the window, and then that faint pop. Scary, right? Now here's the reality. Commercial planes get struck by lightning all the time. Statistically, about once a year. And not only is that normal, it's built into the design. Modern aircraft are basically giant metal tubes, and while that sounds like a lightning magnet, it actually works in your favor. The aluminum shell acts like a Faraday cage, meaning the lightning travels around the exterior of the plane and exits out another point without ever reaching the people or systems inside. It's like the electricity takes a quick tour of the outside and moves on. In fact, most passengers don't even know it happened. Pilots are trained to handle it, systems are designed to absorb it, and planes are thoroughly inspected after any strike just to be sure. So the next time someone tells you flying during a storm is dangerous because of lightning, tell them the plane's got it covered. Literally, you might feel the turbulence, you might see the flash, but odds are the aircraft won't even flinch. You'd think with all the tech upgrades and new plane models, airline seats would be getting more spacious. But the opposite is happening, quietly, systematically. Airlines have been reducing seat width and squeezing in extra seats per row, not just on budget carriers, but on major international routes. Take the Boeing 777, one of the most common wide-body planes. A few years ago, most had a 333 configuration in economy, 9 seats per row. Now, many are 3 to 4-3, 10 seats, 1 extra body, 1 less inch for everyone. That might not sound like a big deal until you're wedged between 2 strangers on a 14-hour flight with nowhere to move, eat, or breathe. And it's not just the width. Seat pitch, the distance between you and the row in front, has been shrinking too. Some airlines have cut it down to as little as 28 inches. That's barely enough space to open a laptop, let alone survive a red-eye without destroying your posture. Why are they doing this? Revenue. More seats equals more tickets sold equals more profit. It's simple math. But for passengers, it adds up to sore backs, stiff knees, and a flight experience that feels more like a sardine can than a getaway. To be fair, not every airline is following this trend. Carriers like Singapore Airlines and Eve Air still offer more generous seating in economy, but they're the exception, not the rule. So if your flight feels more cramped than you remember, it's not your imagination. The space is literally disappearing, inch by inch. You've heard the drill 100 times. If cabin pressure drops, oxygen masks will fall from the panel above your seat. Place it over your nose and mouth and breathe normally. Sounds simple, but here's what they don't mention. Those masks only provide oxygen for about 12 to 15 minutes. Now, before you panic, that's not a design flaw. It's exactly what's intended, and it's more than enough. Here's why. If the cabin suddenly loses pressure, the air at cruising altitude becomes too thin to breathe. That's why oxygen masks drop fast. But the pilots? Their first move is to dive the plane down to a safe altitude, usually below 10,000 feet, as quickly as possible. We're talking a rapid descent that takes just a few minutes. The masks aren't there to keep you comfy. They're there to keep you conscious during that high-speed dive. Without them, you'd have about 20 to 30 seconds before hypoxia kicks in. Confusion, tunnel vision, blackout. So if the masks drop, don't look around. Don't hesitate. Don't reach for your phone. Just put it on immediately. Your window of reaction is short and every second counts. And yes, after 15 minutes, the oxygen flow stops. But by then, you'll be at a breathable altitude where masks aren't even needed anymore. It's one of those moments where every second, every movement, and every breath could mean the difference between panic and survival. And the system? It's built for that exact moment. You finally escape your cramped seat. You've waited for the seatbelt sign to ding, shuffled down the narrow aisle, and now you're in the bathroom, alone. Finally, a moment of peace, or so you think. Here's the thing, most passengers don't realize. Every airplane bathroom door can be opened from the outside. Yep, locked or not. There's a hidden latch, usually located under the lavatory sign on the door. With a quick lift of the sign and a simple slide of the switch underneath, click, the door opens. Why? Safety. If someone passes out, locks themselves in, or refuses to come out for too long, flight attendants need to get in quickly. It's not about invading privacy, it's about protecting lives. But it also means this: if you're getting a little too comfortable in there, maybe fixing your hair, changing outfits, or taking a suspiciously long call, just remember, someone technically has the key. Now, no one's gonna bust in unless there's a real reason, but knowing that door isn't as secure as you thought might change how long you linger. Privacy at 35,000 feet is a luxury, but on airplanes, it comes with a latch. Most travelers fight for the front of the plane. It boards first, deplanes faster, and just feels more premium. But if you're thinking about safety, not convenience, you might want to rethink that seat map. Here's what crash data tells us. Seats toward the back of the plane have a slightly higher survival rate than those up front. Why? In many recorded incidents, the impact force is absorbed by the front of the aircraft, while the tail end remains more intact. No, that's not a guarantee. Every crash is different, but statistically, the rear seats, especially aisle or window seats a few rows from the back, have shown better outcomes in survivable accidents. But there's more to it than crash zones. Window seats tend to be a bit safer than aisle seats in a chaotic evacuation, simply because you're less likely to get hit by loose objects or stumbling passengers. And sitting within 5 rows of an exit can make a major difference in how fast you get out if something goes wrong. Now, if you're thinking, I'll just pick whatever's furthest from the drink cart, fair enough. But if you're a nervous flyer, or just like stacking the odds a little, maybe choose a seat that trades a quick exit at the gate for a safer one in an emergency. Because let's face it, nobody wants to be in a plane crash. But if you ever are, your seat choice might matter more than you think. You show up on time, you check in, you're ready to board. Then suddenly, this flight is overbooked. We're looking for volunteers to give up their seat. Wait, what? Here's the truth. Airlines intentionally sell more tickets than there are seats. Why? Because they know a few people won't show up. It's a calculated gamble to keep every seat filled and every flight profitable. And most of the time, it works. But when everyone shows up, someone has to go. That's when you start hearing offers. A $200 voucher, a seat on the next flight, maybe a hotel stay. But here's your move. Don't take the first offer. That $200 voucher, it's just the opening bid. Airlines will often keep raising the compensation until they get enough volunteers. Wait it out. And if you're selected against your will, yes, they can do that, you're entitled to cash compensation, not just flight credits. According to the U.S. Department of Transportation, if you're involuntarily bumped, you can receive up to $1,550 in cash, depending on your ticket price and how long you're delayed. Many airlines will even write you a check at the gate, but only if you ask for it. And here's the big kicker. Since 2021, once you're seated on the plane, they can't legally remove you just to make room for someone else. So if you're already buckled in, you're staying put. The system counts on passengers not knowing their rights. But once you do, you're the one holding the leverage. From tray tables dirtier than toilet buttons to oxygen masks that only last 15 minutes, flying isn't quite the polished, streamlined experience airlines want you to believe. But now, you've got the inside scoop. You know why pilots don't eat together, why the back row might actually be the safest seat, why that free cup of tea might come with a side of bacteria. And more importantly, you know how to fly smarter. Because the more you understand how the system really works, the less likely you are to get caught off guard, overcharged, or quietly bumped from your flight. If this video gave you one tip you didn't know, one thing that made you go, "Wait, what?" then it's already worth it. And if you've got your own flying hacks or horror stories, drop them in the comments. I want to hear everything. Don't forget to like, share it with your favorite travel buddy, and subscribe if you want more videos that actually tell you what's going on behind the curtain at 35,000 feet. Thanks for watching. Now go pack smarter and wipe down that tray table.